Welcome to the Football Show on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel, sponsored by Indigo Communications. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Ruff and Hugh McDonald are with me on this Tuesday. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us. Hit the subscribe button if you do get a chance and you like football. Absolutely free to watch online. And of course, over and above that, if you want all the breaking football stories, download the PLZ Soccer app as well. Lots to talk about. We can reflect with Hugh on his scores from the weekend's Scottish Premiership. We'll look at the breaking stories from today, including, of course, looking ahead to the European football, which is Celtic against Shakhtar Donetsk, Napoli versus Rangers, and also Hearts against RFS. That's all to come. All you have to do, hit the subscribe button and give us your thoughts on anything that's bothering you in Scottish football. Of course, over the last couple of weeks, every time there's European games, Hugh, Ruffy and I try to stay positive, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, it's been a trying time, hasn't it? You know, I'm actually, I perish the thought, but I'm actually heading to Celtic Park tonight, and with a degree of optimism. I think it's possible that Celtic could get a favourable result tonight. I think it's not quite necessary, but it'd be or imperative, but it'd be a real boost for Ange Postecoglou as he's kept going on about, you know, that we can be competitive to actually get 3 points.
Yeah. And
they were the better team. Celtic were the better team in Warsaw. So they'll get into the game with it's not quite Real Madrid. It's a high standard, but it's not quite there.
Yeah, and in contrast to that, quite a few Rangers fans, Ruffy, are wondering about what's going to happen in Italy against a Napoli side that, you know, in Serie A they're ripping it up, and in Europe they're not taking any prisoners.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's a big one for Rangers. We saw the reaction of the supporters at the last game. You know, that even the Liverpool one, the stadium was emptying very quickly. You know, and even on Saturday there against, it was again, you know, that. At 1-0, you know, a lot of the fans had left, so they're really, really down just now. So they need some kind of pick-me-up, and I think the only pick-me-up they could get would be a respectable result. You know, I don't think they would expect to go there and win the game. So if by any chance they got a draw or maybe a small defeat, I think it would take some of the pressure off, but a heavy, heavy defeat would just add to it.
Yeah, and maybe for the Hearts fans who watched an enthralling game between Hearts and Celtic at the weekend, maybe they've seen enough from what they produced on the park at Tynecastle to suggest they can bounce back with a good win over RFS.
Yeah, I think they can. I think that, you know, the good result in the corresponding fixture, so they would go into that tie as favourites. I think Hearts can and will win on Thursday. I think it's getting to the stage where they really need to pick up a positive result, Hearts, because I think it was 10 losses in 15 matches. That's not, and we know there's difficult European games been in there, but there have also been domestic fixtures as well, and Hearts really need to settle down and need to go after that third place spot again.
Okay, you can give us your thoughts on all three European ties. You can also give us your thoughts on what happened over the weekend. Giovanni van Bronckhorst not too far away from our thoughts as far as his future's concerned, because the general feeling on a consistent basis on our news feed is that he's under real pressure. Do you think he has any stock there for another few weeks, or indeed till the end of the season? Give us your thoughts on that. Also, some of the chairmen are all going to get together for discussions on this Cinch deal. There seems to be still ongoing consternation over Rangers and of course the other clubs on this Cinch Scottish Premiership sponsorship deal. We'll discuss that as well. We'd love to hear from you. Robert Mitchell has sent us a message saying, hi, just a quick message to say thanks. I haven't missed a show on YouTube since March 2020. You're going well there. The laughs and the knowledge of Scottish football 5 days a week got me through some of the hardest times in my life. Thank you very much, says Robert. And Robert, thank you very much for following us. We really appreciate the people who are also downloading the podcast and our app, where you can watch the programme live as well. We really appreciate all the huge numbers we're getting right across all our news feed with our unique content as well, not just the football show. Anyway, hi to so many people. I try and mention people. Daniel McAlpine says, I'm from South Africa. I never miss the show. And I think that that's the one key element of it, Ruffy, is even if you're near or far, some people like just to kind of tune in to get a wee taste of Scotland again that they miss.
Yeah, well, I think if you're football people like us, even if you go away, Hugh was away there touring America, even if you're away for 3 or 4 days, you want to know what's happening, you want to know, and you want to keep in touch. And as far away as South Africa, depending on what team you support, you're obviously a lot of things happening. So you want to be kept up to date, and that's what we do.
Yeah, Patrick Drum, it says, afternoon from Belfast. I'm looking forward to Celtic tonight. Would be nice to go to Madrid with not a dead rubber. I mean, that's the good thing about it, Ruffy. It's key for us that we're going to Madrid, not being a dead rubber. Although, to be perfectly honest with you, who cares? We're going to Madrid.
But we are being a wee bit selfish. We'd like to go to Madrid with something to hang on to. I'd like to go to that game, thinking that if Celtic could get maybe a draw, that they could go into the final. Say, no, I'm just saying if we're going to travel, we may as well go along to the game with a wee bit of excitement.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing about it is, when you're out there, you're hoping I meet somebody who actually watches Celtic and Rangers and Hearts on a regular basis. You're too busy just walking around parks with an Alsatian dog at the moment, aren't you?
Well, I'm babysitting, a dog sitting, if you want to call it that, and it's quite a hard shift, really.
You're not going down to Ayr tonight?
No, I can't.
Oh.
No, well, my house would be wrecked.
Yeah.
No, that's basically, the dogs are maddy.
Yeah. To be fair, Hugh,
I thought Maggie would be angry.
Exactly. I was just about to say to you, Hugh, here's a guy who didn't go to the game up north because he couldn't make it to Aberdeen in time, which we told him he couldn't. So he's missed that. Now he's going to miss it because of a dog. What kind of a boardroom member is he?
Oh, there must be questions. I think it's a question for the PC Trust.
Yeah.
They're quite quiet at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't open the hornet's nest, Hugh. You're a muckraker. Thanks to so many of you who are talking about the games. Some people, and Mark Fairfield says Napoli, it could be Giovanni van Bronckhorst's final game. Well, we're going to discuss that. We'll quickly get Celtic out of the way because it's one of those games where it's taking place tonight. By the time so many of you listen to it, the game could be done and dusted, and we've already suggested scorelines for it. So the bottom of the group on 1 point. They've got to try and win to keep it alive and try and get football after Christmas, albeit in the Europa League. But I think the general consensus from every pundit who's on here, Ruffy, is maybe that's their level.
Oh, definitely, it's both their level. There's no doubt about that, and it's great getting into these games, and Ange comes out and said, it was a good performance, we never took our chances. I would like to see him coming out after the game and saying we did take our chances, and it was a really comfortable win, and it was exciting, because it's not tedious saying it all the time, but some supporters will be going, this is like a broken record. We're not taking our chances, we're playing really good football, but at the end of the day, you want to win games.
Well, as Ange Postecoglou mentioned yesterday, it's fine margins.
A little bit more challenging, better defenders, better goalkeepers, seems the posts are thicker because we keep hitting them. But, as I keep saying, for us it's about putting ourselves in that situation constantly. I'm sure all our players are learning, just how difficult it is to convert those chances. And every time they're out there, I'm sure they're thinking about that and looking to improve in the areas that they need to.
Is it all about levels, Hugh? 54 shots in the Champions League, they've scored 2 goals.
Yeah, it's about. There is an element of luck in all levels of football, and we can grant Celtic that. Shots deflected and going to the post instead of going in it. But the bottom line is about technique. And the illustrations would be when Lilo Bader's running through against Courtois at Celtic Park. Do you really think he's going to score? I don't think you are, and it doesn't. He hits it pretty late. That's a technique, a confidence, an experience thing. It's a levels thing. Maida in Warsaw missing a couple of good chances. Giacomakis missing a couple of chances. That's a level thing. Now that can be improved upon, and it can be and that can be honed, but it's not just down to bad luck. And if anybody thinks that, just look at the goals that Celtic have conceded in the Champions League to players like Werner, to players like Modric, and you see the technique there. There's no shame in it. It's just a levels game. The Champions League, I would say, is the highest level of football you can get. It's better, you know, in depth in international football. So there's no shame in coming up a bit short, but what you must do is try and improve on it, and I think that's what Postecoglou's in that.
Yeah, just before I get to Ruffy on Joe Hart, some people suggesting that Ange's getting a little prickly because one journalist at the press conference yesterday was asking him about ticket prices. Now, with all due respect, Hugh, who in their right mind wants to ask a manager about ticket pricing? What does he know about ticket pricing? The guy's job is to try and get the winning team on the park.
Well, he hit the nail on the head, whether he should have said it or not. It's not his job. I mean, if the idea that Ange yesterday is preparing his game plan with his backroom staff, checking on the fitness of Vjota and others, and then saying, by the way, I better check on the seating arrangements for the travelling Ukrainian fans. It's preposterous.
I don't think it shows him getting up, though.
No, he's just saying to himself, well, this is not my job. There's nothing to do. I mean, and the fact of the matter is that Celtic could have briefed it. They're giving away hundreds of tickets for free to Ukrainians anyway. So it's not really a story, you know. Yeah. It's not as if this is a great Qatar migrant worker thing, you know.
I don't think there are too many Champions League venues that are cheap to go to right across all groups.
No, I think so.
There's a package at the beginning. No. There's a package that every Celtic supporter who wants to see the game buys into that package. Yeah. So I would expect that package was sold out a long time as soon as Real Madrid was in that group.
Absolutely. The other thing about it as well, which I think a lot of... There's a real difference between the expectation, I think, between the both sets of fans at the moment. I think Rangers fans are really unhappy the way the team's playing, not happy with the manager. There's a growing unrest. The flip side here is I can't think of any Celtic fan that I've met who's disgruntled with Ange Postecoglou's Celtic side. They've got 1 point. They maybe should have had 3 from the Shakhtar Donetsk game. But they're happy with what they're watching.
That is a very acute observation that I felt it when I was at the Real Madrid game. Leaving the stadium, well, actually being in the stadium that night, but even leaving the stadium that night, and Celtic were well beaten in the last half hour by a really good team. Yeah. Cuffed in the last half hour. There was a real feeling that upbeat, positive amongst fans. You're walking down the street, there's even songs being sung and things like that. You went, they're buying into the way he's playing. Yes. And they're saying to themselves, we went for it, and we went for it for an hour, and a wee bit of luck we might have got a goal. We're quite happy about it. The other side of the equation is, I was at the Excelsior, or the Penny Car Stadium on Saturday, Peter, and there was a guy in front of me who had a stream of the Rangers game on. And asked him, I saw all these empty seats, and asked him, well, what's going on? Here's the game. And he said, no, it's 12 minutes to go. Well, what's going on? 1-0. And you just thought, 1-0 at Ibrox with 12 minutes to go, plus added time, is not a forlorn case. You would expect the Ibrox still to be packed, jumping, cheering the team on. You just got the feeling that, you know what, the supporters have lost contact with the management and the way the team's playing. And that's a hard thing to bring back, especially when you've got Napoli in midweek and Ajax and sandwiched by Aberdeen coming down on Saturday. So it's a real difficult time for Van Bronckhorst. It's a hugely difficult time.
Is it a case, Ruffy, and you and I know about this because we've been commentating in games, I only have to look back to Paris Saint-Germain, Barcelona away with Brendan Rodgers, who would not change his ethos and the way he wanted the team to play. I look at Celtic and the way they play, and there are some patches in the games where I think, oh God, they could be 1 or 2 goals up here. Are we in the media too critical of it, of the basis of saying, look, plan A is not working, you're going to have to adopt a plan B here, which is a little bit of Gordon Strachan, a little bit of Neil Lennon, and say, listen, if you want 1 point or maybe even 3, you're going to have to change it? Or are we at the point where, not the Celtic fans, but maybe all of us have to look as pundits and journalists and say, okay, we're going to cut you some slack. If you get better players, this might work. It's going in the right direction.
No, he's getting cut slack. He's getting cut slack for the day he came in. He's a fantastic PR manager, and he's telling everybody, this is the way I'm doing it. I don't care about your plan B. I'm just going to continue to play what we're doing. I'm going to give you exciting football. And the big difference between all the other teams is he's winning games. No, it's at Johnson they weren't particularly good. You know, at the weekend, lost 3 bad goals, 2 penalties, but they won the game.
Yep.
And they keep winning. And as long as you keep winning, fans will go, I enjoy that. As you just said there, leaving the stadium is a big thing. If you're leaving the stadium, we've won.
It is enjoyable though, Ruffy. I mean, the Hearts
good.
game was fantastic. Mainly, I think, by the way, also great credit to the way Hearts played. I thought it was a great game to watch. If you were a neutral sitting at home watching that game, you're thinking, what next? VAR, a dodgy referee, 2 teams absolutely going at it, 2 stonewall penalties.
Game.
Yeah, physical game as well. It had everything.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, after 90 minutes, a fan just wants to see their team winning.
Yeah.
And now they're doing everything that's asked for. They're now 4 points ahead in the league. I just think this is a big game tonight. I think this is a game for the sort of a people who are maybe not convinced, that it's all about, I'm excited, but we've just been beat 3-0. I think this is a night. If he wins 2-1, 1-0, it just says that everything he's telling is perfectly correct.
I agree with you totally. I think he needs a result. Not needs, because he's got so much goodwill there. I think a result to underline or confirm his principles would be very, very welcome for tonight. It might not be in any way important as the European football after Christmas, we know that, but I think it would be important, not just for him, for the club, but for the players to say, do you know what, we could get 4 points from a Champions League group. Well, all we need to do is find another result somewhere, and they could possibly have found another result in Warsaw or maybe at home against Leipzig, and suddenly we're a competitive Champions League team. We're not a team that's going to top a group, we're not a team that's going to win it, but we may be looking at it as a team that is competitive in the group stage.
Well, if Celtic win this game tonight, Celtic fans will go to Madrid thinking they're good enough to get a draw.
Aye.
That's what supporters are like. They're still in it. I know there's other results got to go other way, but if it keeps it going, and it's something to enjoy.
Ruffy, you're going.
Ruffy, you're going anyway.
It's bullseye. This is it. You've got that safe.
I mean, Shakhtar draw
Hold
with them.
on a second. Remember when you go into Spain, there's no drugs testing. You're all right. You're fine. Try not to get ahead of yourself with this hope of the Bernabeu.
You got your vaccination.
Yeah. Do you know what this is funny of? This reminds me of you. Celtic played Real Madrid. Laurie Cunningham, Juanito Stilica. They beat them 2-0 at Celtic Park. They went to the Bernabeu and lost 3-0. I mean, putting things in perspective, let's get a sense of perspective on this. Although Joe Hart made a good point. He says, this is a team that's getting closer to where they want to be, and he reckons they're well worthy of being in the Champions League.
Once you start entering this competition with squads, not teams, Celtic's got great European history. So the club Celtic belongs in the Champions League, but the squad at the moment is coming up against squads of players who've been very used to the competition. It's no real secret. It's just fine lines and fine margins and huge moments separate the game.
Yeah, huge moments, and I think there's been more than a few huge moments. Okay, it's difficult because the game will be on, and some people watch this show a little later on than most. I'm going to be slightly optimistic about it and say Celtic are going to win 2-1.
That's what I'm going with optimism. I'm going to be optimistic. Celtic 2-1.
Well, a hat trick of 2-1s. I would like
to say a hat trick for somebody.
I would like to see Celtic going and having a shot at it. I'd like them to be strong at the back and don't lose. If they're going to lose a goal, I hope it's like a Champions League goal, like a screamer for somewhere. I don't want to see them losing a cheap goal and take the chances if they're there, and I think they'll win 2-1.
Okay, you can give us your view on that as well. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free to watch your content on PLZ Soccer's YouTube channel. Hit the subscribe, hit the bell, and you'll get all the notifications of when our unique content comes up on the channel. There are so many things you can watch, and of course if you download the app, you've got all the news at your fingertips as well, and it's free. Can't say any more than that. Napoli against Rangers on the Wednesday. Rangers heading out there with a few more grumbles about that 1-1 against Livingston at the weekend. And when you look at the group, the way it stands at the moment, I didn't see where they were getting a point, Hugh. I still can't see where they're getting a point. At best, it would be a point against Ajax in the final game. Other than that, I fear for them tonight because tomorrow night, because Napoli.
Watched Napoli on Sunday at
Against Roma, yeah.
And they were up against a team that were really sitting in, a Mourinho team. And they were so inventive and quick, and you got Spalletti on the sideline with a bugle telling them forward, forward, forward. And I went, if you ever needed further confirmation, if you're a Rangers fan at the moment, you'd be sitting thinking, well, let's hope that that effort on the Sunday's taking things out. Let's hope because they've qualified, the level goes down a bit, whether in commitment or will he play the best players? Because now he's going to be looking a really sustained Scudetto charge. I mean, we know they're 3 points clear. We know they'll now be thinking, the title is not something that's a pipe dream. So if I was a Rangers fan, I would hope that their level of commitment and desire would just go down a wee bit. But with that manager and the level of player they've got, it could be a very messy night.
That's the fear I have with this one, Ruffy, because as Hugh mentioned there, you're talking about a team haven't lost a game all season.
No, and impressive. The evidence that we saw at Ibrox, particularly up front, the pace that they had and the quality that they had in every area. They're all looking to score goals, So it'll be interesting for me which way Rangers go down this one. I think it's a damage limitation night. It's trying to get out of the place with a respectable score. A respectable score would be maybe getting beat 1 or 2-0. I think he'll rely heavily on his experienced players, as he did at the weekend there, through Arfield on, through Davis on. He needs all the experience in the world to get out of this stadium. And you never know, strange things happen in football. The best they could get would be a draw, but I just can't see it.
Yeah, Napoli, first Italian team since Juventus in 2004 that could win 5 consecutive Champions League games.
Yeah, that's a sign of quality. I mean, I think the opening 20 minutes in Maradona Stadium against Liverpool, you were gasping at it, Peter. Because Liverpool we don't need to tell our viewers about Liverpool, energetic, get about the park, technically good. They were blown away in the first 20 minutes. It was like, what is going on here? This team is just quick movement, relentless, roared on. And you're saying if you're making Liverpool, who will have not expectations, but hopes of being a Champions League winning team, certainly a Champions League last 4 team, if you make them look like that, what chance have you got of doing something to a Europa League team? That is a great disparity. Now Rangers could hit lucky for Rangers tomorrow. They could put in a great performance. Backs against the wall. McGregor could be McGregor again in Europe, and it could keep it tight. But all rational thought says that this is a challenge that they just can't meet.
I mean, you look at the Rangers' possible starting 11. They've got a few. Leon King came off. He was feeling sick. Ravi Matondo was subbed. And you're looking at that side. You say McGregor, Tavernier, King, and Davis, Barisic. So it's not a settled back line. Davis, Lundstrom, and then you've got Sakala, Arfield, Kent, and Cholak. He's had to be fair to him, he's had to chop and change. I think he's been hampered by poor recruitment as well.
Yep.
Whether he's been totally involved in it is open to debate. But nevertheless, he hasn't got players who've been signed that have been able to come in, Ruffy, and they are pushing for a starting place, or they are somebody you think, well, as one player goes off, another quality player comes on.
Well, that was the strength in the Europa. All the way through that tournament, the people on the bench were the ones that were relying on them getting through to where they got to eventually. That's not been the case. And I always had the theory that if you're a sub and you're sitting there and you're not getting on and you're not getting on, and then all of a sudden the manager says, right, you're on. The pressure that's on you to do something when you go on is, you have to be a really good player to do that. And I think a lot of with Rangers not playing particularly well, you know, the guys that are coming on now, the Tillmans, they're not producing what they should be producing, because obviously they've not got the quality to produce it, you know, and that's basically where they are.
Well, let's cut to the chase then. We've all had our say on it. I think if they got a heavy defeat tomorrow, Hugh, and then Aberdeen took something off them, if they got a draw Aberdeen, I think a lot of Rangers fans would think, no, enough's enough.
Yep. Well, what you've got at the moment, and quite frankly, is a lot of Rangers supporters at the moment saying enough's enough. You know, at the moment, without anything, there is I wouldn't say there was a momentum towards it, but it certainly exists. This question exists. Anybody that says, brushes it away, is not listening to fans, you know. And I think tomorrow is just full of peril for them. I think, you know, it's just full of danger. And then on the back of that, you're going to have an Aberdeen side coming down who will be well drilled, might be sniffing blood, and had a week's rest between games. And I think Saturday night at 5 o'clock, if Giovanni van Bronckhorst says, I could beat 2-3, maybe even 4 in Naples, but I won 2-0 today, that's a good week. Anything else, and I think it's a tipping point. I really do. I think it's a tipping point.
Yeah, because 4 points is unacceptable at the moment, and that's with them not playing well. I mean, it's something that the Rangers fans' eyes are not deceiving them, Ruffy. They might get the odd late win, you know, as they did against Dundee, but the reason why they get booed off the park is because the Rangers fans are not happy the way they're watching this team, what they're producing.
Yeah, you can't hide that. You know, it's there for everybody. If you're sitting there for 90 minutes, you can see the levels that you're used to watching, and it's no there now. I would throw into the scenario of a heavy defeat in Napoli, any points dropped against Aberdeen, and Celtic beating Livingston. I'd throw that into the equation as well, because that means, say it was a draw, that'd be 6 points.
Yeah.
So that just compounds the whole scenario. So I think Rangers fans will be hoping maybe a 2-0 defeat against Napoli, a win against Aberdeen, and Celtic dropping points.
Yeah, you were.
Hang on to that.
By the way, you that many permutations there. I completely lost my way. Giovanni van Bronckhorst has said that they've got to try and find that spark. James Tavernier, in his quotes after the Livingston game, had this to say: obviously, I'm the captain, I have to take the full brunt of it. We all, including myself, deserve the criticism that we got in the games that we've not performed. We are a changing room that has high demands, and we have to demand more going forward. We don't want any of these performances coming back. We have to have a reaction in midweek, though we know it's going to be a tough game. We need to come out fighting and show a real attitude, and maybe if from somewhere in the back of the memory banks they could produce some of the performances that they delivered in the Europa League, just to come out with their heads held high tomorrow night would be acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, like a Dortmund result, you know, Dortmund away to an extent. The problem with it is, Peter, is if you're looking at it, everybody will say, well, it's a team that got to Europa League, and it's not the team that got to Europa League final. Bassi's away, Golson's injured, Aribo's away. Morelos isn't the player that he was last season, just simply isn't. And Morelos was crucial for Rangers in Europe because he was the out ball. I think in Dortmund particularly, he was the out ball, he could hold it up, he could join in. Kent was in a better place as well. So there's 5, you know, either departures, injuries or loss of form. That's half a team. You know, that has been diminished, and it's half a team up. And I could add Tavernier to go up to 6 because there's something up there. I don't know if it's an injury or just a loss of form, but nobody's saying. I don't think anybody could say that Tavernier's anywhere near top form at the moment.
No, I don't think anybody is going to back you on that one. So, my gut feeling, at best, I can see Napoli 3, Rangers 0.
I think with a good Alan McGregor performance, you might cut that down to 2. I think I think if he's not on,
Ruffy,
if he's not on,
Ruffy, with all due respect, I actually thought you were going to turn around and say that with a really good. I mean, Alan McGregor will actually cut that down to maybe one, but not two, Ruffy.
Not two, yeah, no, I think you could make important saves to make that 3 that you're talking about, no, a 4.
Yeah.
And on the night, I think as he's done through his career there, he's coming to the end of it now. Probably this year will be his last year. I hope that he has some saves that we've seen him doing before.
Yeah, okay, you've given us the probability. Oh, thank God for that. You now know where I'm going with you, don't you?
Yeah.
10 years down the line, and if I had to look back over all the Peter Ruffys that we've been a part of, we've seen that lovely build it up and then bang. So 2-0 he's going, I've gone 3-0. What
3 for me.
Yeah.
I think, and particularly the only, as I say, if you watch Napoli, the only reservation you would have about a convincing Napoli victory would be, you know, a sterling defensive performance with Rangers, and Napoli feeling a little bit tired of the Sunday game, blah. But otherwise, yeah, 3-0.
Okay, give us your thoughts on that. What do you make of Rangers' performance so far? Is the manager under pressure? Is the clock ticking? Is it 2 games away? Is it, as many people say, you're only 2 games away from a crisis at Celtic and Rangers? Are these the 2 games coming up, Napoli and then Aberdeen? How do you think it's all going to pan out? You can give us your thoughts on that.
We haven't had the dreaded vote of confidence from the owners or the board or anybody.
Yeah, I don't. Well, the biggest problem I have with the whole scenario with you is, I don't know if you noticed in the background, the whole takeover story hasn't gone away from the Americans. That's one aspect of it. Second to that, which the Rangers fans know is coming up, which is not something that can be fabricated by the media, is the figures.
Yep.
The financial figures will be out. They've had 9 consecutive years of losses. You're waiting to see, okay, if there's that big money come in from the Europa League, what's happened to it? Where's it gone? How's it all been dispersed? And where are Rangers currently at the moment? So those are 2 big questions, as well as the board will have to face up to the fact that from Europa League final, of course, Steven Gerrard stopped 10 in a row. They got the Europa League final and then lost the title to Celtic. So there are some difficult questions. Recruitment's another one that I think the board are going to find it a difficult 10 minutes on. And then, of course, the performances this season. And
the unspoken question is, is this the time now for the directors to cash in their chips? Are directors now saying, do you know what, we're giving millions and millions and millions, we want it back now, we want some of it back? And I'm not just talking about Dave King, obviously, who's in the process of selling, or not in the process, but has sold some of his shares to Club 1872. But the other chairman, they say, listen, enough's enough. We are now actively courting a takeover or a sale because we want to recoup some of the money that we put in, which would be entirely fair, so I think there's a great business story behind Rangers, as there usually is, but that is going to impact, of course, on the park. And I think that is the story going forward, because one of the big questions I think with the AGM is, how much is, if it continues, how much has the manager got for his budget for January?
Yes. That's the one that I would ask. That's the driving force for me, for any Rangers fan. If you are off the pace and Celtic are ahead of you, how can we catch them is the question. And the question to do that is, can you add quality? There will be criticism of the recruitment and the players that have not been able to actually force their way in.
Well, you look at Celtic, Celtic come off a disastrous season by their standards and turn it around in a year. Because of a very good manager, the guys but the guy changed the whole personnel, Peter.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there was one person, started the other week they hadn't signed, So he turned it around very well. And the reason he turned it around well, because Celtic had the wherewithal to do that. They had the money to do that. And that's why he was That's why he could turn it around. So that's a big question lying in the background too.
Yeah, thanks to the source who says the amateur financial experts are at it again. Well, they might be online, but the only thing we quote for the benefit of the source who's posted his message, the only thing you can quote are the financial records which are there and can't be contested. And as far as Gio being under pressure, I think that's down to the Rangers fans who are waiting to see. Thursday night, Hearts, I think we can be a wee bit more optimistic. If they are, I'd love to have seen them in the Europa League, if only to get the huge cash that could have been coming their way to transform their season. But they're in the Conference League, they've been found out by 2 teams, but I think they're capable of getting something off RFS.
Yeah, well, they've already proved over there, a convincing win on the back of the weekend, a positive display against Celtic. You want to go into this game and win it, and then say to everybody, right, this is what we build on, this is what you have experienced, we've failed, but this is what you want to encourage them to be third or fourth in the league, to be in Europe again, and that's what they'd be hoping that the players are all there and have been part of it, although they haven't maybe enjoyed not qualifying, they've enjoyed the experience of going to these places, and testing themselves against better players. So for me, it's a win, and let's just move on to next year. Yeah,
okay. I think they can win it 2-1. You?
I'm going to go 2-0.
I'm the same, 2-0. I think they'll win.
Yeah, okay. By the way, full marks to them, the Jambos. I thought they played some really good football. I'd like to see more of Robert Snodgrass in the middle of the park. He's not got the legs, but he's got some good, really good passing. He'll score free kicks.
And he'll score goals as well in open play.
He's a Jambos Charlie Adam, isn't he?
And the other thing about him, I mean, once you've got that quality, it shows people what they can aspire to, and he'll make real demands on people because he's an international. He's played with good clubs. He's come up the hard way as well. I think it was Snodgrass at one time on loan to Stirling Albion at one time. I think that's where he comes. So he knows how difficult to get to the top. Hearts need to win games. It's as simple as that. Hearts need to win games. It's need to win on Thursday. Give them a bit of confidence. Win at the weekend. Start building that up and start trying to get where they want. Their title is finishing third. That's their title.
Okay, we'll be covering all 3 European games. I'll be at Celtic Shakhtar tonight. Adam Binney, our reporter, is out there for Napoli against Rangers. We'll get reports from him across all our social media channels. Kerry Pollock will be at Hearts against RFS on Thursday. So, PLZ Soccer, if you want the breaking football news, get onto our app and download it in the App Store and Google Play. And if you want to join us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. We'd love you to tell your friends. You'll get opinion, you'll get a bit of banter, and you'll also get some breaking stories and managers and players interviews on the programme, as well as the boys here having a little bit of fun. And you'll also get a chance to exchange your opinion with not only us on our feed on YouTube, but you can exchange your opinion with some of the people on there as well, although try and not make it a bun fight. It's as simple as that. We always like people to conduct themselves in a proper manner. Is that fair, Ruffy?
Yep, we always do that.
Do you hate it when I come up with the how to behave yourself?
No, well, obviously I can't see the screen, so I'm not getting the content of what you're reading. So I'm hoping there are more nice people than the bad ones.
Absolutely. I think the one thing about it, Hugh, is when I'm reading some of the feed, we try and police it as often as we possibly can and try and just weed out some of the, what I call the, what's the great word for it in the west of Scotland? Mental heats. The BAMs, that's them. So we try our absolute best to do that, and I have to thank Radio Clyde for that, because when the messages used to come in, I used to have to speed read while you're still trying to commentate and look at games and everything. The whole thing was
multitasking.
It was a mad spaceship at the time. Plus, of course, as I'm lucky enough here with you guys, working with the best in the business. Okay, from the European games, what about this? All 12 chairmen of the Premiership teams set to attend a Cinch summit. Now, obviously, this in itself, Hugh, has come from Rangers looking to get some answers on the Cinch deal. So the crisis talks are going to happen next month over this long-running dispute that Rangers had with the Cinch sponsorship. So I don't think we're going to get any resolution out of it. I'd love to see it in such a way that we can call some kind of time on the legal action, because right now the costs are spiralling for everyone.
I know that the interesting thing, I read, it was Stephen McGowan's story in the Daily Mail this morning, and the couple of things that piqued my interest in it was the spiralling legal costs, because what's happening is that these legal costs are being met by the clubs, because the clubs are the SPFL. And the second thing where Stephen alluded to the clubs getting really pretty fed up about this as well, you know, like, so hopefully some compromise can be made.
Do you think the truth will come out?
Well, it really does. I mean, I ain't seen, you know, aiming for the truth to go out might be a high bar. I'd just like to see the deal over the line to the satisfaction of the 12 clubs, so that the money continues to come into the game, and so we can move forward.
Yeah,
it's a bad look.
It's a test for the future, because other sponsors will be sitting going, like, let's see how this turns out. Because if we're going to throw money at it, you know, we want to know what we're getting out of this, and so the end product of this one could benefit us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great learning curve from you and your mob over the last couple of years. But suddenly the light, the way and the truth, and how not to argue. But if anything, Hugh, you want I believe that Scottish Premiership and other clubs in the SPFL could have been looking at multiple deals for sponsorship. Never mind just, oh, by the way, we've secured Cinch to sponsor the Premiership. They could have been looking at multiple little sub deals on the basis of, if they hadn't been just a bunch of what would appear to be to people outside, drunk, squabbling men in a pub having a punch up, because that's the way it looks all the time.
All the time, because you want the simple thing to boil it down to, Peter, is, and this is really simple, but it's very difficult to achieve. They've got to look at the common good, and to look at the common good, they have to make personal sacrifices or compromises. Because what's the common good to maybe a Stenhousemuir or Partick Thistle or Ross County might not be to Celtic, Rangers, or even Hearts. So they must say, like, we know we're all capitalists, we're all, you know, we're all here to make money for our clubs and keep the club viable. But there's reputational damage here occurring, and what we have to do is say, how can we make this, how can we get this over the line? How can we meet the justifiable concerns of the parks over, funding a competitor, or you know, fair enough. How can we do that? How can we get it over the line so that it works for everybody? Yes, absolutely. And how can we move forward and attract sponsors that do not have a conflict to clubs? I don't think that's the driving force between that meeting, though. I think there are two elements to this which we don't know the truth on, which is quite simply, at what point was that deal proposed, and who knew when and where, and who was going to say, no, it's not on, I'm not signing to it, because there's no way you sign a deal for 42 clubs on the basis that you've got a major objection from somewhere. That timeline is something we don't know. And secondary to that, I do think there is a driving force within Rangers to try and get rid of Neil Doncaster. I think that's true. I mean, I think both these things are true. In any scandal, in any row, whether it's politics or in it, the question always comes down to who knew what, when. Yes. That is Watergate or a Cinch Premiership deal. But it is, who knew what when. Should we call Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein? And that's it. And again, I think Rangers, I think you can see what's happened over the last couple of years. That there's certain, shall we say, severe disenchantment at Rangers about the management of the SPFL. Yeah, okay. Couple of things we want to talk about before we go and get ready for the week ahead in the European Cup, as it's called. There's me showing my age. The Champions League, the Europa League, and the Conference League. We'll cover all the results from all these games. Get your thoughts as well. We'd love to hear from you. Aston Villa, Unai Emery. Oof, what about that, Ruffy? Straight in. Yeah,
I've always liked him. Obviously, it didn't go well for him at Arsenal, but certainly I keep talking about when these big clubs are looking at somebody, a manager, they need somebody who's done it at a high level, and I think he has. So they've obviously looked at his track record and saw what he's done at club level, wherever he's been. and they think he's the one. It just seems to be foreign managers all over.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because his record even before Arsenal was good. And then after it again, he proved the point that he was a good manager. You know, sometimes expectation and reality are the things that kill you.
Aye, and you can go to a club and it just doesn't work out. You know, a couple of signings go wrong. Arsenal's expectations, rightly or wrongly, huge. Get a couple of wrong results, and suddenly, and you know, in football, suddenly you're a dud. You know, but he's obviously very far from that. I always think the measure of a manager, if you look at him over a long sample, over a career, is did he overperform? Did he ever outpunch his budget? And with Emery, you can see irrefutably he does, and he did. The job particularly did at Sevilla. I was surprised by it. I was surprised with the quickness of it as well, which suggests to me
the moves were around
there might have been, because to get Emery over the line.
Yeah, there was a release clause that they were well aware of.
Oh yeah, and to get Emery over the line though, you know, so quickly, I think was a very deft and swift thing.
It's amazing they knew the release clause, wasn't it?
How would they guess?
Which brings me nicely to Hugh, and if you do get a chance, it's really good because we've experienced it before. But last night I sat down and I thought to myself, you know what, I've got a spare wee hour here, Ruffy. I'll watch the Netflix documentary on Luis Figo and the transfer from Barcelona to Real Madrid. And boy, that was a deal shrouded in what we experienced in Scotland with Maurice Johnson. Not quite Barcelona directly to Real Madrid or Rangers directly to Celtic, but you know, sometimes when certain things don't happen in a certain way, and then suddenly a deal that nobody ever thought was going to happen, Hugh, materialised. What a great watch it was.
It was a terrific watch, and the machinations of football as well. And one of the things I'm really interested in now is I think in the way deals are going to be structured in the future. There's almost a little gear change now, where players now are saying to clubs, I think the release clause thing is going to be a huge thing in football going forward, because players are now saying, see if there's going to be a transfer fee, we want to set it low so that we get more of the cake. And Haaland brilliantly has done that on 3 occasions so far. But yeah, the Figo thing was a tremendous watch.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Have you watched it yet, Ruffy?
Fortunately, I didn't have a spare hour.
Yeah.
Has he got a dog walk?
Yeah. Well, yeah. What a life he's got. He's at the cutting edge of excitement, isn't he? You know, must remind myself never to hang about with him out with this show.
Well, we've done that so far.
We've done that for 10 years, by the way. West Ham 2, Bournemouth 0, Ruffy.
We like my pals getting a
wee ton. We like Moisey getting a wee ton. Although, what about his penalty?
Yeah, but that's ability, that's quality, that's having the confidence. And
their manager wasn't happy. It was a bit of a replica of what happened at the weekend. You know, I think that's going to cause consternation continually in Scottish football.
How you think?
Well, I've narrowed it down. I haven't narrowed it down to that. But this whole ball to hand, how far away you are, you know, is there intention?
I nearly choked myself laughing the other day when somebody said, at least VAR will stop the arguments. You see, start the arguments. That'll do. It goes back to VAR should only decide on matters of fact, I think.
Yes.
Then it does stop the arguments. Once it gets into matters of opinion, it just increases the arguments.
Yeah. I was curious to ask you about that, because the VAR, if anything, we're talking about Bournemouth. I mean, I think, to be fair to him, Gary O'Neill said we're obviously disappointed with the first goal. It was a terrible decision. It cannot stand. It's impossible that that's a goal. His arm moved towards the ball. I can't understand how that can be given. I just can't even believe we have to discuss it. It's handball 100 times out of 100. Now, he's clearly disappointed on it. You're never going to get away from this subjective view, interpretation that human error will occur even with VAR. And at the weekend, for the Hearts game, Hugh, referee I thought was poor, and whoever was in the VAR, I thought Michael Smith was a stonewall penalty.
Yeah, but obviously wasn't, because 2 referees looked at it and said no. Now you go to yourself, what I would like to see is, and I don't want any,
They'll just shake their heads, I know, because some of them are like this, that kind of a condescending.
No, you don't know the rules,
by the way. This is not the way. This is not the way.
Well, funnily enough, I have spoken to certain referees about this who one would thought would know the rules and who say that it could certainly, shall we say, have been given. What I would like to see is, I don't want to question referees after the match, but on VAR, what I'd like to see going forward, it'll never happen, because the reports on referees aren't published, and that is the referee saying, this is why we did not give the penalty again, just on the ones that are referred to VAR, because he did not move his hand to the ball. His hand was in a natural position, or he was too near, Forrest was too near. That's the explanation. Now, they don't have to go to a press conference.
Yeah.
It only needs to be 2 lines. The one that mystifies me, and obviously has no answer, is the one where Nick Walsh blew the whistle and then went to VAR. What are you doing that for?
Yeah. Just for the Ralston goal.
The Ralston goal.
Again, once we saw it, we saw Giacomakis was pulling.
Yeah, but why go?
Back.
But why go to VAR with that? Because he'd blown the whistle. He'd blown the whistle before Ralston scored.
There must have been somebody in the studio that said, "Have a look at that." Maybe they never saw the pull of the jersey.
Yeah, let's not be speculating. By the way,
just another thing? Did I read somewhere some countries now thinking about bringing in a sin bin?
I was the same there. Just the only fences.
We're off here. I thought after 10 years he finally lost it to that some country. I nearly fell off the chair, Ruffy.
I don't even know the question.
The big man's lost the plot. He's just firing grenades. That's brilliant, Ruffy. I don't care if you read it somewhere. What did you read? Sin bin.
I think it was South Africa.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I mean, well, there's so many things that we want to change, but listen, we've got to cut them some slack.
Aye.
Week 1, I mean, Hibs against St Johnstone, you think, okay, not too many things. Next minute, all hell lets loose. Tynecastle, Hearts against Celtic. We've got to cut them some slack. As Crawford Allen did mention, listen, it could be 2. Ian Maxwell mentioned it as well. It could be 1, 2, 3 months of a little bit of pain, certainly a lot of moaning until we eventually get it right. Fingers crossed we do. Hugh, what about Pollock through to the 3rd round of the Scottish Cup? Great result against Annan.
And that is a club that really deserves it. Anybody that knows anything about what I call junior football, now called semi-pro football, will know how solidly they are they're supported, and they're good financially, and how many people there work to make that club a success every week, and that it survives. It's part of the great Southside community. Been lucky enough to go there. Great stories along there, Peter. I always say we throw in a bit of trivia before we go to some of our viewers across the sea. Is that the other week there I was down at Troon, where the picture on the wall is Edson de Nascimento training down there, the day that...
I have it up on the wall in here.
Yeah, Pelly trains down in Troon. The great Pollock story was, once I was there, and then the guy said to me, doing a story, he says, that wee woman there's the story, the wee woman that's selling her raffle tickets. I says, how's she? The story says, her son's Bobby Gillespie that sings with Primal Scream. So you had you had Mrs. Primal Scream selling the raffle tickets at Newlandsfield. Now, if that's not well, I don't know what is.
Yeah, that's great. Good result for them, Ruffy.
It's fantastic, but the people have to realise that these top junior teams are now semi-professional. They are not far away from being the full deal, because I saw the teams that have came in getting the financial rewards have been part of the big setup, the pyramid setup, and there's going to be more and more of them breaking through.
This weekend, biggest game this weekend, done up Auchinleck Talbot v Darvel, 3rd round of the Scottish Junior Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, enjoy your Champions League football if you can. There's some belters tonight, Hugh. You'll be watching, obviously you'll be watching and keeping your eye on Dortmund.
Oh, very much so. Very much so, because Dortmund are they're up and down at the moment. They had a great result of the weekend. I was at the Man City game. I went down to Etihad to watch them. We beat 2-1. But interesting to see how they got on tonight. Interesting to see how Manchester City, the strength of the team, will they bring them back? I think Haaland will be champed at the door demanding to play, but that'll be an excellent match.
Yeah, some really good ones tonight to watch. Good luck to Celtic, good luck to Rangers tomorrow, and of course Hearts on Thursday. We'll keep our fingers crossed with all managers, interviews, player interviews, reaction, all across our social media. We've got our reporters out at games as well. If you want to follow us, download the PLZ Soccer app. You can catch us on the website as well. And if you hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel, it's absolutely free online content, opinion, interviews, bit of banter here and there. Ruffy nearly taking us off air in the last 5 minutes, but thankfully he was talking about some country where he'd read something, which was even probably more shocking that he'd read something than what we thought he was about to say. As ever, it's great to have your pals around you when you're actually talking about football. Sometimes you lose the odd pal here and there. Way too young. It's as simple as that. And I'm going to dedicate this show to my pal Peter Burns, who sadly is no longer with us. I leave you tonight saying to each and every one of you, value your friends and meet up with them as often as you possibly can. From Ruffy, from Hugh McDonald, and from myself, Peter Martin. Thanks for watching.